As a spiritual abuse survivor, have you ever asked yourself how you can detect and avoid other people who are spiritually abusive? In this video, I'm going to discuss one common and kind of surprising trait that you may not realize that I believe is common among people who tend to be spiritually abusive. My name is Dr. Felucia. I'm a licensed psychologist and owner of Skill Set Counseling, where I focus on the treatment of OCD, spiritual abuse, and cultural abuse. And this video is going to be in the domain of spiritual abuse. So back to the question at hand. How do you spot somebody who is spiritually abusive? Now, spiritually abusive people have all different types of traits and behaviors, but one that I have noticed is that spiritually abusive people tend to be dismissive. And the way that they are dismissive is that they use spirituality as a cover for their dismissiveness. I'm going to explain more about this. So if you think about it, as people, we tend not to generally like people who dismiss or like invalidate our feelings and our perspectives. And it's okay to disagree. I mean, healthy relationships are, have disagreements, but the sign of a healthy person is somebody who can view and appreciate somebody else's perspective without just dismissing it. With spiritually abusive people, they tend to use spirituality as a way of dismissing the experiences and the perspectives, and especially the pain and difficult emotions of other people. I have a video on something called spiritual bypass that I'd like for you to watch if you haven't already. And this is kind of like a spiritual bypass. And so in essence, what a spiritual bypass is when somebody uses spirituality to just kind of throw a cover or a blanket over the issue, right? So somebody could be going through a really difficult time and they just say, well, you know what? All you have to do is just keep having faith. You just got to have the faith, or you know what, don't let bad things bring you down. You just have to keep a joyful spirit, things like that, that I guess they sound good on the surface, but when somebody is going through a really difficult time, those things can, they're not addressing the root of the issue. It's basically just using a spiritual phrase or a cliche or a platitude to just bypass the issue. Now, spiritually abusive people do this, but they also do this in a way that can dismiss what people are feeling. And it can be very subtle. So people, who I've worked with who have gone through spiritual abuse will say that when they have interacted with spiritually abusive people, that they feel that they are being invalidated, they're being dismissed, but it happens in a very subtle way. So think about it. If someone came up and said, goodness, like I'm having a really difficult time, there was, maybe they just moved to some place and they're really grieving the loss of like their old friendships and their old community. If someone just said, hey, like get over it, people move, you'll make new friends, that's not somebody that you're really going to, pursue a friendship with, I guess, But if you think about what if that person said something to you along the lines of like, well, we have to look at things from a spiritual perspective, and you can't allow yourself to look at things from an earthly perspective, and you can't get weighed down by your circumstances. You have to look at things from a bigger picture. Right now, those things are kind of true. They are, if you're a spiritual person, we do, you can realize and see that there is a spiritual dimension to everything. But this person kind of dismissed what the other person was saying because they're having a difficult time moving. And yeah, there are spiritual aspects to everything, but at that moment in time, that person's missing their friends and they're missing their family. Okay. And so when you think about using spirituality as a way to dismiss somebody's feelings, that happens quite often with spiritually abusive people. And something else I want you to remember too is that spiritual abuse, does not only have to occur from a leader to somebody that they are leading. This can happen between people, right? And so think about being dismissed. People, I want you to take a second and think back about, maybe your spiritual abuse experience or any type of other abusive experience that you've had. And think about a time where you felt dismissed, you felt invalidated, and you felt kind of like whatever you were talking about with that person was a nuisance, or they kind of looked down on you because you were having a difficult time. A lot of times that can be a form of spiritual abuse, especially if it happens again and again. Now, people are, I understand that nobody's perfect, and I'm not saying that that everybody should. I guess I'm saying that you shouldn't have this entitlement attitude that everybody should listen to your problems and be able to like sit with you in your grief or difficult emotions. Not everybody is capable of doing that, and not everyone is a safe person to even do that with. But what I am saying is that one hallmark of spiritual abuse and spiritually abusive people is they consistently use spirituality to dismiss what you're going through or even invalidate your experience, right? And so a lot of times people have talked about when they have met with people in their spiritual environment, and they've talked about very challenging and even traumatic things that have happened to them. They're kind of looked down on and spoken down to, but in a subtle way, and using spirituality. So they'll say things like, well, you have to forgive people. And yes, forgiveness is an important part of the recovery, but that's not what the person is talking about at that moment in time. Or they may say something else like, well, nobody is perfect, and we all, are sinners, and we can't judge people. It's just using spirituality as a cover to dismiss something that you are talking about that is important to you. And sometimes people have even been accused of like judging people or being divisive or being critical for just speaking the truth about a situation. And so, again, I want you to look out for this. It's a subtle sign of spiritual abuse, but it can be, I think that it's something that you should definitely try and be aware of, because it's subtle, but it can happen over time. And again, when this happens over and over again, and somebody continues to feel dismissed and invalidated because of spirituality, what does that do? It makes your spiritual environment unattractive to you, right? And not even just unattractive, it's unwelcoming and it's unsafe. People go to spiritual communities as a way of connecting, as a way of forming, relationships and community, but also finding solace. And so when people have gone through spiritual abuse, these repeated, dismissive, invalidating, minimizing experiences that are done under the guise of spirituality can have a very negative effect. And so the next time, if you're ever like in a situation and you feel, oh, I just don't know about this person, it doesn't feel right. I just didn't feel good about that interaction. Ask yourself if they use spirituality to dismiss what you are going through. And again, spirituality is important. The spiritual concepts that people bring up are important. And the things that person may say in that time may even be true. But the point is, you don't want to be in an environment or in a relationship with a person where that continues to happen over and over and over again. Sometimes people may say something spiritually dismissive out of ignorance, or and I understand that, but at the same time, the what defines abuse is when this happens repeatedly, and then when this is a way of managing interpersonal interactions and just governing the spiritual space. So I hope that helps. And if you would like to learn more about your spiritual abuse recovery journey, please go to my website, skillsetcounseling.com. And you can click on the description, or there's an orange button for a free consultation. And also, if you click in the description box, you can click on the link to book a free consultation with me. Okay. I hope you have a wonderful day that is filled with peace and joy. Bye-bye.